Good morning, everybody. It's Leigh White, your transformational coach. I'm coming to you live today with a specially requested topic on the topic of forgiveness, and just going to talk about some general things while we're waiting for anybody that is joining us this morning to come along. And the general topic I'd like to just touch base on is around the fact that we're coming close to being halfway through the year now. And some different sorts of cycles might be ending around you. And have you checked in with yourself about how any goals for 2018 are coming along? You know, was there something in yourself that you'd been wishing to change? Was there something in yourself that you'd been hoping might end and fall away? Was there something in yourself that you were really wanting to call in and manifest in your life? Because if there's been no change in what next month, will be 6 months, then it would be very interesting to do a bit of, take a bit of time to go within and look at what has not changed and is keeping you stuck, what you might need to look into in order to go about changing anything. And if you've got questions around that topic of doing the kind of mid-yearly review and different intention setting, then please just post them in the comments below and I will be answering those. So we're just getting ready to start now. And if you do drop in while I'm speaking now, do just let me know where you're calling in from or who's there, so I can, say hi and answer any questions you've got, definitely. Or I would love to hear what is going on at your end of the world. So we're talking on the topic of why forgive at all. Because there's so much, it's kind of like a pressure to forgive others. And I was provided with a really generous and, quite meaty sort of case study of a person's experience around this topic. And, it rang very true for me. I can understand it on a lot of levels. And what this person has been experiencing. Morning, Melissa, how are you? I hope you're having a great day, great Monday. Well, with the case study, they were talking about how they have a relationship. So they have a husband and then there's another relative in the ether, and that this person causes a lot of conflict or feelings, causes the woman to feel less than, to feel like she isn't enough and is getting it all wrong all the time. It's not enough. You don't do it right, blah, blah, blah. And so that it's something that we talked about doing a live on a while ago around mothers and either being a mum or having a mother-in-law or having your own mother and what those relationships are like. And this one, it's a tricky one because one of the reasons that makes it so difficult is expectations. So the mother or the mother-in-law has an expectation of what the relationship is going to be like. Maybe we aren't that one that they were dreaming was going to happen. Maybe we're not ready to be controlled by them, because the thing is, if they were kind of living in this flowing, easy, graceful way, they would have accepted who you are and been comfortable with that. But instead, it's coming from a place of control where it's like if you want a boyfriend that's super successful or something and your boyfriend just isn't. You've got to explore why you want that. Is it so that you don't have to do anything and they do it all? Or is it something else? Do you just want to have your equal so you don't have to support someone else? Whatever. You can just explore what's going on there. And in the case of a mother or a mother-in-law, it can be very complicated when you have a person that is blaming their unhappiness and their lack on you. And so in terms of forgiveness, gets complicated because it requires a bit of work around this kind of thing. So let's say one question is, why are they behaving this way? Why are they blaming you in the first place for what they're experiencing in their life? You know, maybe you've gone and moved overseas with their son, who is actually your husband now, and that they don't want to have to travel to come and see you, and you guys aren't in a position to come and see them. And hi, Jerry. Nice to have you here today. And we're talking about forgiveness. And so in this instance where the mother-in-law is putting a lot of blame onto the wife of her son. So, you know, this scenario of you move overseas, she doesn't want to have to travel, then she's going to complain and it's going to be difficult. And just looking at what comes up there, why are they unable to see any positive aspects about the whole journey, as in the journey of your marriage and them being in the family, and maybe them even going on that trip? Then, you know, there can be a whole lot of reasons why they're not experiencing what they think is perfect, because whenever we get involved in messing with what comes into our lives, whatever we're experiencing, if we're quick to reject that and wanting to control it and make something else happen, gets very wobbly, gets very complicated. So instead, if you want to try to understand where this person that is the subject of our forgiveness, or the calling that we're experiencing that we should be forgiving someone, why are they even, you know, blaming or angry or spiteful or whatever all those other creepy words are? The process kind of goes thoughts, feelings, behaviours, and they start to have these preconceptions of what life is going to be like. So they're having these thoughts, and then what they're experiencing is an emotion in response to the thought not, you know, working out. And their behaviour is this big, really highly emotionally charged reaction to what has come into their reality. So when it's an instance like maybe a gift is given or a trip is needed to happen, and they just don't, it's not working out to their plan. It's very difficult when this comes about, because broaching the subject of why they have those expectations may or may not be the right way to go. That's something that you would need to explore. But when we allow them to affect our emotions in any way, it's so dangerous. And what is going on there is often it's triggering something within us. So we may have a healing that's needed around our self-worth. Like, God, who doesn't? Geez, it's unusual to not need something going to be work there. And, you know, our ability to feel like, you know, we're worthy and that we're not causing bad things and we're not responsible for them, particularly when you're being told that you're responsible for not being enough or being too much or all of these different things. So what is it triggering in you is something that's very important to explore, because the whole topic around forgiveness is acknowledging that something has occurred that wasn't like of love and bliss and joy and perfection and everything. So what is going on there? What has it triggered within you? And journaling is a really, really powerful way to explore that. So you notice, you write down what you've noticed, and then you notice what that leads to, and you can ask yourself questions like, what if, when you're doing that journal? So what does that mean, and what then? And, you know, keep exploring it, and you might find, oh, so that reminds me of, and you can go back to the root cause problem that is anchoring some kind of issue within you that is causing you to feel inadequate, or to allow someone else to make you feel inadequate, because we have to allow it in order for it to happen. But like when someone that you don't have up on this pedestal or feel obligated to have this respect for, when they say something, then it may not bother you at all. But it's when there's someone that has that kind of power going on there, you're going to be really affected and triggered. So do some work around that. And in terms of the forgiveness of their, thoughts, feelings, behaviour, outcome, what's coming up for them around their expectations not being met or something like that, do they fit the profile of a narcissist or some kind of psychopath? Those words are thrown around on TV all the time, but they are usually people who, like, it can be in your DNA, it can be because you were raised by others that were like that and something that needs its own, area of work around it. Or it can just be someone that feels really hurt and they haven't dealt with those emotions that's causing them to lash out and get into these situations where forgiveness ends up being needed. So why forgive? Like, far out. Does that mean that we are really saying it's okay for them to have done that? Well, totally not. It's nothing to do with getting on board their train. It's not like that at all. It's more like acknowledging what's happened, because acknowledging what's happening in our lives is so important. It's the big one. Acknowledging what's happened and then being able to really explore it, work out what you've got to let go of, so that this thing of people having any power, no, you giving your power away to others and you feeling like they've got power over you or power to trigger you, it takes a lot of work, definitely. But if you don't go through that process of forgiveness where you acknowledge what happened and forgive the situation, see how different that is? It's got a totally different vibe when you forgive the situation. So if you're forgiving that a person had this altercation with you and that you gave up your power and you let them make you feel horrible. Hi, Sally Ann. Getting into the meaty bit now. We are really acknowledging what occurred, what state we were in afterwards, where we need to do some healing and releasing of things there and taking back our own power. And then when that puts a completely different perspective on the whole idea of forgiveness, because when you're forgiving a situation and you're feeling some compassion for this other person who, you can kind of understand from their perspective, there might be some things that are going on there that cause them to feel these particular emotions. So going through a process of forgiving and releasing any attachment to the emotions that came up is important, because when we hold on to feelings of anger, shame, disappointment, let down, all of those sort of feelings, they cause different neurological and physical responses within us that are really dangerous and damaging and will keep you carrying the weight of anger and those various emotions that you might have experienced. And ones like shame and your lack of self-worth and losing your self-esteem, they're really, really dangerous, and they will not stop having flow-on effects that cause you to be triggered in other situations at work. I mean, far out. Who wants to be really showing entirely who you are at work? You do not want to be being triggered in a place where you're trying to be as professional as you can be. And, learning what is the root cause of these things and what thoughts and feelings of your own are underpinning them is so important, and making the choice to let go of all these different anchors that are, it's kind of like a bit of an analogy of if you're holding something for a long time, like let's just say it's a glass of water, doesn't weigh very much. Hold that for half an hour with your arm extended. Hold it for an hour, half a day, overnight. Oh my God. Imagine what your arm's going to feel like. So all this stuff clogging up your different energy centers and the different physical illnesses and things you might take on when you experience really strong emotions, like relationships breaking down, relationships you can't get out of, that you can't desire control over of either. You just can't have that. It doesn't work that way. And you can keep bringing the relationship that you want to the table. So you can keep giving out the respect and love and compassion and consideration and all of that. And at some point, something will shift. It's hard to say whether that person will change the way they react, but they may soften over time. Usually people do over a long period of time when they're people that you cannot avoid in any way because your relationships are connected in some way. And the more that you take that attitude that there's some lesson in this for you, some opening up and expanding of you, or even some healing and releasing of something that you just totally don't need, because if it's not that one that triggers you, it's going to be another one. And it might be someone that you love and is really close to you that ends up being the trigger and copping the explosion when you just don't want to be doing that. So consider them as a really valuable link in that golden chain of your life that will actually enhance who you are. Now, that's a powerful statement. So someone's currently causing you pain and conflict. And when you do that inner work on what is going on, why they're causing you that, why you don't feel strong enough to not be affected and have the boundaries around you, which is usually anchored in with your values, what you're going to accept and say yes to. And in this instance, when we're talking about mothers-in-law and elders and people around us, often you letting go of what you think society wants you to do. Now, times have changed a lot. So what you saw your mother doing with her mother or mother-in-law might be really different to what the world and society expect of you. But what do you expect of you? What are your own expectations of what you'd like to aspire to be, the person you'd like to be, and what you'd like to bring to the table? It's so important to make that decision about whether you're going to go through the forgiveness process and, let go of these things that can cause you all these other physical and emotional issues, and then forgive the situation. What do you think about that? Do we have any questions or comments? Have you tried to do this before? Because usually each of us have had a situation or somebody that we need to be forgiving and struggled with it. We felt like we're condoning what happened. You just totally don't have to do that. It's more around acceptance and just releasing our attachment to it. So I just want to say a big thank you to the woman in this group who sent me the request to do a piece on forgiveness and gave me the permission to use her case study around having this relative by marriage that is causing and provoking and triggering all of these responses, and just to go into this exploring the different layers around forgiveness and what the price is of not doing it. So it's going to set you free if you can frame it the way where you're not being submissive, you're not giving your power away, and you remain intact, your soul sovereignty is restored, and you're back to wholeness, and we don't want it any other way, do we? So that's all I have for you today. Oh, Melissa, yep, been there before. So Melissa has made a great comment there around how doing it for herself, that forgiveness for herself as an empowering tool, is so great. And I'm so pleased that you were able to, go on that journey and do the work, because none of this is easy work. None of it is particularly fun, and it's really difficult work. But why are we here? We're here to do this work, and we're here to go to that other level where we can experience life with as little judgment and as little preconceived ideas and emotions as possible, and just have that gentle openness a whole lot more. So I'm glad you found it useful, Sally Ann. It's always great to have the reminders, isn't it? And yeah, Melissa, very true. So thanks very much for being here today. I know someone else has just joined us, but we are wrapping up, and I hope you have a fantastic Monday. I know there's a whole lot of energy supporting all of us on this journey of taking a bit of time to reflect on what has come up since December. Since around the end of December, has your life changed? What has become new or left your life? I would love to know, because it's sort of another cycle ending there, and we're coming up to that mid-year time when people tend to reflect on their intentions they set for the year. So I'll look forward to seeing all the comments and questions and things in the comment section below, where a lot of the best conversations happen after the live. So thanks for being here today. Bye for now.